I'm Corinne Schaefer, and welcome to Create Outside the Box. In this episode, I will be speaking with artist Bambi Held about her artistic journey, process, and her new art studio. If you're interested in watching our conversation, please visit the Creative Operations YouTube channel under the playlist Create Outside the Box. Bambi Held, an artist from working-class Calumet region of Northwest Indiana, began her artistic journey early in life. After high school, she worked in Chicago before earning a BA in history from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois, where she also met her husband. Bambi later pursued graduate studies in historical studies and political economy at the New School in New York City. Although she left the program, she embarked on a career with a New York City publisher, eventually relocating to Matawan and then Keyport, New Jersey, where she now resides with her husband and daughter. Art has always been Bambi's means of self-expression and connection. From performing in choirs to embroidery and mural painting, she explored various genres and disciplines, finding balance in her creative pursuits. In 2019, Bambi discovered acrylic pouring, which became a pivotal moment in her artistic journey. She describes this technique as a way to respond to society's deep sense of alienation and disconnection, and she takes joy in how her artwork fosters connection and conversation. In 2022, Bambi and multi-disciplinary artist Mary Ann McKay opened their first art studio in Matawan, New Jersey. As their studio thrived, they expanded to a larger space in Matawan and launched Sharktooth Studio in the fall of 2024. Bambi and Mary Ann aspire for their studio to be more than a place to create art. They envision it as a vibrant community hub where people can connect through creativity. So hello, Bambi, and welcome to Create Outside the Box.
Corinne, hello, beautiful Corinne. It's good to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being on. It's good to see you. I'm excited for our conversation. And I normally start off the interview with how I know the guest. And we met a couple of years ago through Artist Lunch. So there's a group of artists in Keyport. I don't technically live in Keyport, but you've been nice enough to invite me in, and we meet on Fridays. And it's just been, for someone moving back to the area after not living in the area for a while, it's been such a wonderful, supportive community of friends. So that's where we met.
You're here, right. And by now, Corinne, you are certainly an honorary Keyporter and virtual as well. So yes. Welcome to the little place we call home.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I kind of wanted to jump into your artistic journey. What was your first introduction to art, or you're getting into the visual arts?
Not a tricky question. I think this, like, everybody's an artist. We're born artists in one way or another. So, I'm not going to be able to pinpoint just one particular place where all of a sudden, hey, I think this is a cool thing, this art thing, and I want to be it or be a part of it. When I was young in grade school, I loved music. I sang in our choir in grade school. This is where I learned that I was a second alto, and I carried, the music portion of my art at the time into high school, where I was a member of concert choir as a second alto as well. So music has always been very near and dear close to my heart. In my bedroom, in my turbulent youth, in my little girl days, I would create collages on my bedroom walls, just cut out the pictures I loved and just tape them up there until my whole wall was just filled with images that I just loved to look at, and images that, they'd help me get through my life and help me get through another day. Just, recognizing the beauty that was there. In high school, as I got older and became the teenager that I became, I was very much into heavy metal music, and the artwork that on the album covers and in the liner notes. And I painted murals of album covers on my friends' on my friends' walls and stuff. Yes album covers, Black Sabbath album covers. People who know me from my high school days know this like really cool one I did of Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. It was one of my favorite. So, plenty. I would embroider my friends' jeans with colorful whatever. They'd hand their favorite jeans to me on the school bus on the way to high school. And, during whatever time I had, I would embroider something colorful and hand it back to my friends. So, later on in life, furniture refinishing was very cool to me, kept me busy. I had a period of time where I would create frames on a grid and plant succulents in the frames and just arrange these succulent plants in these beautiful arrangements of colors and tried to make them continue to live, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. So, the journey began when I began. Mm-hmm. And painting, I never developed the talent to be any sort of representational artist. The skill just never. I just can't. I just didn't. So abstract art, once I realized I could do it, I just dove right in. So painting turned out to be a really cool thing for me. It was a lot more portable than a lot of other things I was doing at the time. So that's how I got where I am here.
Wow. So I like that because it's like art came into your life like breathing or talking or walking. It just always existed. You played around with a lot of different mediums, performing, visual, different kinds of actual materials that you worked with.
It is. And I think that, I don't think I'm like very special in that regard. I think all of us, just by virtue of our being human, it's a thing we do. We find ourselves in a place that, when we need to survive. And so, to be able to survive ultimately in the world we live in, we set our sights toward this path of work or career, the things we do, the things we create, and we expend a lot of our life energy creating things, not for other people. We create things and we set them aside, and by virtue of their creation in our jobs, it becomes something else and somebody else's thing that somebody pays us for. So we're expending our life energy doing this thing to be able to survive, just to collect a paycheck. But we need to create for ourselves. We need to know and we need to find things. It's just human nature. It's just who we are. To live, we have to create things, not just for other people to pay us, but to fulfill ourselves, to fulfill our souls. And so all of us have whatever it is we do. For me, so when I describe my journey and all of these different things I did it because I had to, and I think we all find those things that we have, that we need to do. That is our art. It's the creation. This is the creation of our lives. That's our art.
No, I agree. And I think that, if you listen to, other interviews with other artists, all from different genres and disciplines, you'll find that people are like, this was the only way I could truly express myself.
Exactly.
It's what kept me sane. This is what saved me from this experience in my life. Helped me get over my shyness. Helped me get over, whatever learning challenges that I had. There's so many actors, for example, who had stuttering problems, and they are now like Academy Award winning actors, but they got into the craft as a way to kind of, all right, how do I trick my brain? And, oh, wait, I can have fun with this, and then create a different identity, And then what someone might think is a weakness ends up being your superpower. And how cool is that?
Exactly. Yeah. And, just to expound on the perception of weakness when it comes to art or music and and dare I say liberal arts in general, the useless majors or subjects or topics in school are not. We need them. We need to do them, and we need to provide them to others. We're not human without this stuff. That's how fundamental it is to us. And it's fundamental to me to create, but it's also fundamental to me to share with others. It's just life. It's just breath. And that's why what brings me the joy, my art, is not just the creation process, which does keep me sane, which does keep me grounded, which keeps me in connection with myself and with my soul and my head. Sharing it with others, sharing this art with others, and watching how others make it their own, how others see the beauty in this abstract piece that I created, and they create their own perception. They see what I create, this abstract piece, they see something different from what I may see, and what others may see. But we connect there. We connect in that we all see beauty in this thing, and we can all interpret these pieces in our own ways. And that also is life. That also is human nature. We create for each other. We share this creation with other people, and they take it into themselves and make it part of their lives as well and part of their perceptions. So we see different things in my abstract piece of art, but it's all beautiful because fundamentally we're seeing something we really like there.
Yeah. And I love this point of art as a means to connect. And I think that's exactly what art does. When you think of, society and how we started off, when we were living in caves, what did we do? We would gather around the fire and tell stories or sing or make sounds out of instruments. We would paint or carve these stories into walls so that people could see what we did or accomplish, long after we had gone. So I think that what you're saying is so true, that art is a means to connect, and that's why some of these fluffy things that we think are the icing on the cake. No. This is a fundamental to the recipe.
Absolutely.
If you do not have a means to connect, that's when society is really in a hard place. When you don't have anything where you can have empathy or share an experience, when we feel isolated, that's when there's danger. So you're absolutely right. A society without art, without these things, is not a society we want to live in. Right.
So true. And yes, it is the means to connect. And, there's like this dichotomy in our lives, and there's this dichotomy in society where, and social media and just the internet age has really amped this thing up, where human beings are presented in the abstract, on a macro form in society. I mean, our laws even do that, right? It's like nobody's different. Everybody follows the same rules, and there's just this abstract perception of, what is normal, what we're all supposed to be, who we all are, in this, in the age of social media, on steroids, that contributes to memification and prescription of this is how you must be, or you are the other. Somehow you are not human, you are not fully human, which is just completely antithetical to real life and to what keeps us alive and what our survival is all about. We depend on one another. We depend on one another to create the things we create. What if we all created the same thing? What if we all were the same? We would not survive. We depend on each other to be different. Mm-hmm. Why can't we celebrate that? We can celebrate that through art easily. Well, that's where I find the joy in my art.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's diversity is a superpower, you know? You can't all have the same special skill. You know, it's like if we went back, you know, we were on a desert island and you had 10 people and 10 people who all had the same skill, no one would survive on that desert island. So diversity and sharing of different experiences make us stronger. We just need to be open to it.
Well, yeah, and resist the temptation to abstract us all into these sorts of easily memeified tropes.
Oh, you mean like putting somebody in a box?
Putting someone in a box. That's why we create outside the box.
Exactly. And that's the whole reason for this podcast, is because I think a lot of people, even people who, you know, would label themselves as artists or even working artists, sometimes we think we have to fit a box to be successful or to get it to work or to be a real artist, as if that's a real term. Like, what is a real artist? You know, Van Gogh did not sell a painting in his lifetime. Was he not a real artist? So that's why we need to just kind of shatter all of these expectations.
Well, yeah, the expectations and, you know, definitions of, you mentioned who's a successful artist. Just what is success? How do we define success? As artists, we may define success differently. You know, in our careers, like me, I mean, you know, what I do to be able to pay the bills is accounting. I've done it since high school. But accounting does not, you know, define me. I'm really good at it. And, you know, some may consider me a successful accountant, but, you know, if all I did was accounting, I wouldn't consider myself successful at my life. I'd be freaking miserable. So as a successful artist, I can define myself as, you know, maybe successful in that just seeing the joy, listening to people see my art and describe it the way, and it's like have someone come in to the studio, look around and say, you know, that was my favorite last time, but I think I'm going to change it. This is my favorite this time, because you can. When I hear that, I feel more successful as an artist. I mean, be nice to sell the stuff to be able to pay the rent on the studio. It's hard to let these things go, though, because they surround me, and, you know, the color just brings me joy. Right, I agree. And, you know, at the risk of being labeled woke, I'm with you on this diversity thing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the art and all of the colors, now you were talking, you did everything from like collage work to painting murals to embroidery to singing. How did you now go, okay, acrylic pouring, that's where it's at? How did you discover this, and why is this such a great medium for you?
You know, it's really hard. It's really hard to go back and actually pinpoint when this happened for me. It was in 2019, and I was feeling very stifled in ways. I was running out of ways to express myself in a satisfactory way. And this was even before the pandemic. But I know the way I recall it, it had something to do with color. You're right. I was just sitting around, just musing about color. And for some reason, I don't know why, I started thinking about interference colors and how cool interference colors are. Like these colors where, depending on how the light hits them, they like morph into another color. So you can look at them in different ways, and you see different colors, and you see them morph, and then you play with the light. It can be very sciencey, and it just seemed really cool to me at the time. So I just started Googling interference color just to see the images, because I thought, those are really great. I want to know more about these things, and went down a rabbit hole. Went to YouTube, Google it, just searching more on colors, and just somehow stumbled across the preview of a video where somebody they had like this cup full of many colors, and they just poured it onto this canvas, all over the place, and just took a picture, just like an image of, let's see what this looks like now. And I'm like, holy crap, what's going on here? And then she picked it up and she like twisted around, and things are moving in different directions, and it's becoming whatever it's becoming. And then she puts it down, and then she picks up a culinary torch, one of those torches you see on, like, I don't know, your favorite cooking show. And she starts torching this stuff, and bubbles are popping, and new things are coming up out of the paint. And I had to do it. I looked at a few more YouTube videos. It's like, all right, so what's the catch here? What's going to make me not be able to do this? And you know what? There wasn't anything.
Yeah.
Just went out, got the stuff, and just went to town just to see it happening right there, not only in front of my face, but I was making it happen. It took my breath away. And it became what it was going to become. And I experimented with, if I do this, what happens? If I do that, what happens? How much of this can I make happen? And how much of this is just going to be what it wants to be? Mm-hmm. I was in heaven. I was in heaven. I couldn't stop.
So you're jumping into what I wanted to talk about next, which is the creative process. And I'm really getting the sense that a lot of this is organic and just like experimenting on the fly. But I wanted to kind of dive into it more. Like, do you go with like a set plan, like when you're picking out the colors, or like what tools you use? Like, do you use a flame? Or are there other things that you use to get those textures? Can you delve in a little bit deeper?
Oh, sure. Would love to. There are all kinds of tools to use. So I'll just be walking through a store, like a grocery store or something, Home Goods and Marshalls is really good for it. I'll walk by and I'll see a cookie cutter and go, I can do something with that. I can pour inside of a cookie cutter or a couple of cookie cutters. I've used colanders. I use toothpicks to move things around. Just plastic cups. You've probably noticed wherever I am in the spaces I hang out, there are always these little pieces of notepad that I just, and with a list of different colors, one right after the other. So I'll walk around, I'll be taking a walk, and something captures my eye, and I'll just whip out the pad of paper and start, okay, let me see, dioxazine purple, that sounds good. Let me give me some interference violet, that sounds good. I'll make a whole list of colors, and then You know, when I come to the studio, I just dig in my pocket and it's like, okay, here's this list of colors. Let's see what I can do with this. We use silicone and other different ingredients we add to the paint to be able to create, to make different chemical reactions. And just different effects. WD-40, I've sprayed WD-40 on paint to make, different things, whatever suits your fancy. So yes, I can use tools, your handy dandy palette knives come in. I use blow dryers to just blow that stuff across the surface. The world's your oyster. But you know what? I almost never use a paintbrush.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's more of a, like art meets mad scientist.
Science. Yeah, especially the mad part.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to come out. It's like, I'm creating something and let's just add this and see what happens.
Yeah, it's like you see it, like it presents itself to you. I mean, very, very often it's like, one of those cake plates that you can spin around and spin that sucker around to see what gravity does to it and what centrifugal force does to it. And then it presents itself to you and you can use gravity yourself. You pick it up and you try to, use gravity to your benefit and see if I do this, I have an idea of what's going to happen here in my experience. If I do this way, I know what's going to happen here to an extent. Yeah. And I like we call them wrecking it, but it's not really wrecking it. I take toothpicks and skewers to the wet canvas a lot just to pop bubbles or move paint around in a particular way. And so, there is some agency there, but like life, the random can take over a lot of times. And that's not a bad thing. You literally go with the flow.
Yeah, you do go with the flow. And I'm wondering, you started this in 2019. Is there something since 2019, has your process evolved? Are there things that you've learned? Have things changed?
Yeah, things have changed. I mean, in a practical sense, I started out with a lot of cheap materials. And as I felt, when I felt more confident in the process and confident in what control I had over the process and being comfortable with the parts that I didn't have control over, I spent a little more money on better paints, better canvases, and started mixing my own colors, buying some pigments and mixing them up. And
I like that.
Yeah, these are really fun, and a little goes a long way. And
yeah, they're very concentrated.
Yeah, they're very concentrated and sparkly. They're so sparkly, and they have interference colors, and you know how I love interference colors. I experimented with different processes that. And different techniques that require different and more expensive ingredients to be able to achieve a particular effect. I started out mostly on canvas, 12 by 12s. I did a lot of 12 by 12, 10 by 10, 11 by 14s until I just and had a ton of fun with them. And, in an artistic sense, from my perspective, was really successful with this stuff and lots of fun. And, in that it just, some of these things would just take my breath away when they showed me what they were going to become. I started finishing a lot of the pieces with epoxy resin to give them a nice shiny look to them. And it just, resin makes this stuff pop even more. But I was quickly running out of space. You can kind of tell up here. So, I just following YouTube videos and stuff, and I'm just very grateful to all the fluid artists who just share their work and their process and their recipes on YouTube. The community there is just a joyful group of, let's do this together. Let's figure this out together. And so, I mean, these techniques keep evolving just, amongst the community as well. But I started, since I was running out of space, and since I was following things on YouTube, I started pouring on, smaller substrate, like tiles, like ceramic tiles, and making coasters and stuff. So you're just like,
yeah, that one's pretty.
Like this. So yeah, this is a particular technique that, it involves more expensive and more sophisticated materials, but a little goes a long way. And they don't take up a lot of space.
No, I have one here as well that I have. Yeah, now I have two pieces of yours, so I'm very excited. Yeah. But it was interesting, and I feel like this is going to be one of the themes of our conversation because community has come up again. It's important to have an artistic community. It's important that we share, whether it's directly where we live, or you were mentioning online, like having an online presence, because you never know, like by sharing your artistic experience, how that's going to help or inspire somebody else. But bringing it back to the local community, I brought up how there's this, great artistic community in Keyport. You live in Keyport. How does that community and being an artist in Keyport inspire you? And in turn, how do you hope to inspire that community?
I love this community. I am so blessed that I fell ass backwards into this community and I was accepted with loving, open arms. Y'all fill my heart. Y'all just fill my heart. I'm so supported here amongst we have this core group of, a good dozen, baker's dozen of folks, you, of course, and, my dear friend who shares the studio with me, Mary Ann McKay, whom I've learned so much from, and who's always there to back me up and make those gentle suggestions or nudges without saying, this is what you should do. And Hank Smith, who just provides me all the stories I need for all of the inspiration. And, when he runs out of stories, he'll juggle for you too. It's a cycle. It's a circle of love. And I consider myself so privileged to be a part of this community, and I would consider myself a successful member of this community if I could just turn it around and provide everybody there with the same support and the same love. Which you do.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. No, you're always a ray of sunshine and always so supportive. And I think also there's always fun and joy with your work. And don't underestimate how important fun and joy are. We need fun and joy. And with the colors and just the process, you just kind of imbue that into everything that you do. So we're appreciative.
I am successful then. Thank you.
You are. Yes, you are. I wanted to get a little bit into, because you were also talking about, sometimes when people look at your art, that's a way of connecting. But then sometimes it's like you might have one idea about a piece and then someone looks at it and they have a completely different view. And I kind of want to delve into that, but I want to make sure I read the quote correctly. You describe acrylic pouring as a means of responding to the profound sense of alienation and disconnection in society. We kind of touched on this before, but could you delve a little bit deeper on how your work reflects these challenges?
As we kind of touched on, we need one another. That's pretty established. But it's easy to forget how important these connections are, and not just our connections, but how important our diversity is. And it's very easy to get caught up in this memification and this othering of one another. And in the process of othering, placing a judgment that anybody who isn't part of what I am, or what this abstract sort of ideation of what correct thought is, if we judge someone as not fully human, and that's a very, very slippery slope. That's like the crux of the alienation that we're all experiencing now. I don't think, I hope there would be very few people who would disagree with me, at least on that point. With my art, not only do I hope to, address and just punch the hell through that alienation by sharing this creation, this thing that I created with others. It's a place where we can meet on common ground, no matter who you are. I give this to you. Let's look at this together. Tell me what you see. What is your perspective? We can meet right here. Tell me what you see. Tell me, which way does this thing go? Does it go this way? Does it go that way? You can tell me why, or you don't have to tell me why. What we all recognize there is beauty. Even if you don't recognize beauty, tell me why. Let me understand. That's okay. This is abstract art. You can make of it what you will. I give this to you. Let's share this. And in that way, as like going back to when I say we make of our lives art. We have to. In that way, we share that experience together. We become part of the art, you and I and the observer. And that's the most important thing to me about the art that I do.
I love that you're talking about how we as human beings are trying to cram ourselves into a tiny, abstract box definition of what we should be. And what you're basically doing is like flipping that. I'll give you abstract. I'm going to give you something that there's no right definition.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right definition on this. And you're absolutely right. Because it's color and beauty, it's a safe haven for people to come together and voice their opinions and say, this is what I think, this is what I see. Now, one would hope that we could graduate from a beautiful piece of abstract art to other aspects of our world where we could also feel as safe to discuss I see that tree. What do you think about that tree? Or larger issues, of course, is what I'm getting at. But the point is that we don't. And the thing is that maybe there would be less overall conflict in the world if there were more conversations. And I think that's what you're trying to get at in this work, in this work that you do. It's like, hey, let's connect. There's no wrong answer. Connection is the important part.
Yes, our differences don't have to be the thing that tears us apart and puts walls between us. They don't have to be. In fact, our survival depends on our breaking down those walls. Let's start here. This could be a start. That's what I hope for.
Now, have you ever had a discussion with somebody looking at your art where they've shared an insight with you where you were like, whoa, I wasn't thinking that, but like this really moves me, or this really blew me away, or I didn't think of things in this way?
I love to be fly on the wall. I love just stepping back and listening to people look at the works and describe what they see. All the time, no matter what. When I hear somebody say what they see, it always blows me away. It's just, it gives me that feeling right here. That's what it's meant for. I want those surprises. And every time somebody talks about what they see, it's another surprise. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, because I do think that we often put all art forms and all disciplines on these pedestals of things that are meant to be kind of worshipped from afar.
Right.
And I don't think that art is meant to be experienced in that way. And so for you to take something that someone might traditionally view, like visual art, I hang that in a wall, I put it in my home. Like, no, this is interactive. Interactive art.
Yeah. I make little things like on little chunky 6x6 canvases that are like this thick, and I always encourage the viewer, hold on to it, hold it. It's a thing. Flip it around, look at the sides, and make it. Feel it. Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this conversation can see some of your art behind you. You're now in your new studio, Dark Tooth Studio, which is going to be opening in October. This is the second studio collaboration with artist Mary Ann McKay, who you brought up earlier. I'm excited for the opening. How excited are you? What does this studio mean to you? How do you hope that it will contribute? Now, the studio is in Matawan, and I'll let you say where it is, but how do you hope that it contributes not only to Matawan, which, let me tell you, is like hopping at the moment, but also to like Monmouth County and the surrounding areas as far as a place for art?
I'm just really thrilled to be in the studio for a couple of reasons. You're right, this is our second studio. And both of the studios Mary Ann and I have shared have been in some historical buildings, really old buildings. The last one was on the same street, a couple blocks near the library. And that was an 18th century building. It was on the second floor. And Mary Ann and I had shared it for almost 2 years. And it had some beautiful architectural details in it, and a really cool ghost if you're into that. But we were running out of space, and we wanted a more to try to develop a more public face and something more accessible. And we kept bugging the landlord and asking him if he had anything else. And he had recently bought the building across the street from the Big Blue Mansion at 213 Main Street in Matawan. And that's where we are now. It's a beautiful, again, it's beautifully renovated, as you can see. It was its last iteration was a medical facility, but it had been dormant for quite some time, and it really needed an overhaul, which the building owners did provide. It took a while. We're on the first floor now. We have some more space, and it's just, it's a piece of Matawan history that we want to do justice to, and we hope we can. It's a piece of Matawan history that we hope we can share with the rest of the community of Matawan. I mean, just come on in, check it out. And you're right. Artistically speaking, artist community speaking, Matawan is really hopping now. And I see beautiful things just starting here, and I really hope we can be a part of that. We'd like to share and have, just maybe some events here, some artist talks, or some, I don't know, paint and sip, whatever. Just share the love is what we're hoping to do here. And this space, this gorgeous space, I can't believe this is our space. It's just so awesome. This gives us that opportunity, finally. So we're looking forward to big things here. We're really excited about it. In October is it's kind of a soft opening that we're having, but we're going to be here a while, and we're looking forward to just being a part of the scene.
It's going to be great. And for those who are not up on all of the history in Matawan, can you explain how you came about your name for the art studio, which is Shark Tooth Studio?
Shark Tooth Studio is a riff on the Matawan history. We all know the movie Jaws, and the story behind Jaws is actually based on a true story that happened right here in Matawan, and just right over here in Matawan Creek. And you have a personal connection as well.
I love how I'm making you tell the story, and it's my relative. So anyone who knows me probably knows this, but so I guess he would be my great uncle was Lester Stillwell, and he was unfortunately swimming in the creek with his friends. He was 12 years old when a shark swam up into that creek and attacked him. And he and the gentleman that tried to recover his body, is it Stanley Fisher, unfortunately both died as a result of those shark attacks. And it was major. It made international news because there had been other shark attacks that summer. It was, I think, 1916, and there was a series of shark attacks. But, I think the combination of a child being killed, the fact that it was in a creek, in marsh, it wasn't in the ocean, it just really captured the worldwide stage. And the Stillwells lived in Matawan. There's still the Stillwell Garage that's in town. So there's a lot of local history. So I'm kind of happy that you've got a little connection, yet another connection to me, whether you did it intentionally or not.
Yes, just full disclosure, we checked in with Corinne before we landed on the Shark Tooth Studio name.
I take no offense. I swim in oceans. I swim in creeks. I'm okay. What are the odds that it would happen more than once, right? But anyway, no, it's a really fun, it's a fun name. The logo is so cool that Mary Ann created.
She's a dynamo designer, isn't she? Mary Ann is awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome. Yeah. But yes, we're really looking forward to, again, soft opening, but a lot of things are going to be happening at Shark Tooth Studios. And in addition to, the studio that you can visit and see your art, you have other art that you make. I want you to explain this process, because from your art, you create jewelry and wine glasses, all of which can be found at Gallery Lucida in Red Bank. We had previously interviewed Michael Mazzeo, who is the gallerist there, but now you can find your work there. What kind of gave you the idea for that? And what is the process with the jewelry and the wine glasses?
The idea came straight from the YouTube community.
Wow.
There's, as you might imagine, pouring a crap ton of paint on a canvas and swinging it around on a cake platter creates a whole lot of extra paint that doesn't remain on the canvas. And so I'm very careful about lining the surface that I'm working on with silicone or freezer paper or something where ultimately I can let that extra paint dry and then I can peel it off. Or sometimes I can just, on these slippery tiles, I can pour something on these slippery tiles and they lend themselves to peel off really easily. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that does peel off easily.
Yeah, and then it's like, this is just shiny, stretchy paint on the backside. This paint, actually, the base paint for these kinds of things, it's house paint. Because house paint is like, it's a lot more stretchy. It's a lot more forgiving. So it makes things like this easier to work with. So I'll peel off the drippings off of silicone, or go ahead and peel from a tile, and then I will cut the things in a circle to the size of the bottom of a wine glass, glue two of these together so you have a top and a bottom with a design, and turn the wine glass upside down and pour epoxy resin to seal it over the bottom of the wine glass, and I'll end up with...
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
There we go. Hard to get a good image, but we get these really cool wine glasses.
Yeah.
And shiny on the bottom.
Both sides. That's super smart.
Yeah, it's both sides. It can be a really delicate process. And when I do use the epoxy resin, you must know that I use the correct protective equipment. I am wearing a respirator when I do it. And if anybody is thinking about doing something like this, don't you do it without a respirator.
Yeah, gotta be smart.
And so, I mean, you got to be really careful, and just part of the process. As I'm waiting for the resin to dry on the bottom, it's got to see. It's like, just as a matter of fact, with like any of these things I'm doing, it's like when the paint is wet and you have this flat surface, everything I work with, I have to make sure is absolutely level. Otherwise, things are just, well, you can imagine. So there's that process of leveling everything out and then waiting for it to dry. Sometimes the resin will drip down onto the glass, and then after it's dry, I have to try to get it off, and every once in a while something breaks. And then, it comes with the territory. Sometimes I can rescue the art that's on a broken piece, and other times I can't. I've got this, the same sort of concept without the resin applies to like pieces of jewelry. So I'll glue a piece of, see, I get there.
Yeah.
There we go. Into, like a cabochon, into a tray, and then I make these kinds of pendants. These also can be found at Gallery Lucida, and when they capture the light, it's like really awesome, right?
Yeah, I love with the metallics. Yeah.
Yeah, they just They do my heart good.
Yeah. Anything that sparkles, I'm like, I'm there. Give me the sparkle. Yeah.
Yes,
Love
I'm
it.
with you.
Yeah. So again, those can be found in Red Bank at Gallery Lucida, or you can visit the studio in Matawan. You have things there as well. So plenty of places to find your work. But if people want to learn more about you and your studio, like what website should they be visiting? What Instagram handle should they be following?
My website is a work in progress. Yeah, I'm more a fluid artist and less a website artist. You'll find that out right away. So, but it is seriousgroove.com. You can Google me at Serious Groove Studio, and Serious Groove Studio is also my Instagram handle. Again, I'm not a social media artist. I'm more a fluid artist, and I'm not really crazy about being the center of attention. This will change, I know. In a business, you got to do what you got to do, but I love the paint.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you'd be surprised. I mean, even, for people who are extroverted, like there are things that I go, oh gosh, I have to do that, or oh, I have to put myself out there in that. I think it's just a human thing. It's much easier if it's about the art, or if it's about somebody else, it's a little bit easier, but it does feel like, oh gosh, unless you're paying me to be under the spotlight, do I need to have the spotlight on me?
Yeah, there's that. And, it's, the social media thing is like, it's a huge time suck. And, I like doing things I'm good at. And I know the things I'm not good at.
But it is helpful as far as people finding you, and, they can follow, and maybe at some point you can delegate somebody else to do your social media and, share the process, maybe. Who knows, in a couple of years, maybe you'll be on YouTube sharing your process to help the next generation,
Yeah, that's, always a possibility. Yeah, and, not for nothing. There is contact information on these social media sites, so.
Exactly. And I'm going to include all of that in the show notes, so that'll all be there for people to find. Bambi, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and to explore your process and your art, which is almost just a thesis on how to connect and how to love and how to make community important. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, Corinne. And just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all your support.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Create Outside the Box. Please subscribe, rate, and share our podcast. You can listen to Create Outside the Box on Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Check us out on our Creative Operations YouTube channel, where you can subscribe to watch our interviews. You can find and follow Creative Operations on our Facebook page and on Instagram at @CO_Creative Operations. For more information about Creative Operations, please visit www.creative-operations.org.